Do that. Hello, hi. How's it going, everybody? Obviously things look a little bit different. But hey, it's me. It's Mel. Silver, what's up, girl? So things are a little bit different. Ivy had to work. Diana, she's dealing with some other stuff right now, so it's just myself, and then obviously we have the lovely Uriel on, and he's going to be talking about all about that wonderful lore. He's currently just like walking away right now, just last minute prep. We caught him last minute, but oh my god, hey guys, how's it going? And yes, hi, I have a cat this time. This is my baby. Well, it's my girlfriend's, but this is my baby. Her name is Clove. She's a shoulder cat. She's wonderful. She's adorable. She drools. And obviously things look a little bit different here. So, um, the reason why I'm gonna tell you why we couldn't stream last week. The reason why is that Diana was still moving. And also I actually had to move out for a small bit. Because my father came in contact with, from his work, with someone that was tested positive of COVID-19. Oh god, my girlfriend sent me something. Sorry. Yeah, so my father came in close contact with someone that tested positive of COVID. So I immediately helped my mom prep the house and everything for him to stay. And then I packed up my shit and I'm living at my girlfriend's now. I've been here for almost 2 weeks. I fucking love it. And also kitties. This is my baby. It's Clove. She's my girlfriend's, but I love her. She's my sweet innocent. You can't hear her. Which her name is Clove. Clove. Also, folks, I'm sorry. Tonight is just a little bit of a crazy one because. Oh, look at you. Um, yeah, so tonight is a little bit different, and I'm very, very sorry about that. Oh, yes. Um, she is a gorgeous cat. She's so innocent too. Here, baby, we're gonna look at her. Look at her. She is so soft. She is so adorable. She is so innocent. I love this. If anything happens to her, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself. Um, oh, thank you very much, Panic. And oh, of course, you're gonna want to climb up to be back on my shoulder, like the little baby you are. Yes, you are. You're a pretty little girl. Yes, you are. You're nice, soft. But yeah, tonight, hey, thank you very much, guys, for contributing stuff, points. Does she sleep on the bed? So yes and no. Some nights we have let her sleep on the bed. Other nights, she stays outside of the room with the other cats. Yes. So all of that. Um, so, so yeah, there's three other cats in this house. So, and one of them, my girlfriend and I, we like to call him a whore because, well, he is a whore. Yes, hi, baby. Um, but in the past she has had a little bit of trouble of peeing on stuff, so that's why we're sometimes hesitant. But she has gotten better. Um, so yeah, I know y'all are tuning in, and be like, let's hear about Laura. That it's just me talking about this cutie little patootie right here. Um, yeah, sorry. I'm also like I'm not on my regular setup. Like, yes, I have my computer and everything, but I don't have my multiple monitors. I only have two, so like I'm managing everything right now. So like, just bear with me, guys. It will improve in the future. As far as I know, Ariel is just last minute prepping. He had some little Eve stuff going on. This little baby will like in the middle of a fight. Actually, it's happened when I was playing in my girlfriend's room. Like she'll just come up, be at me like meow, meow, like that and everything. I'm like, I love you, but like, I need to fly Logi right now. I can't pet you. I'll give you pets in a bit and just this cute little baby. Okay, you want to go explore? Okay, go explore. Go explore, baby. She's just um she's getting comfy on my leg right there. Hello, Uriel. How's it going? That's good. Thank you. Once again, thank you very much for coming on tonight. Yeah, well, you're part of the LNL crew. Um, yeah, no, and because it's just we love your lore segments and everything. Oh, Uriel is muted. Oh, shit. Just a minute. Talk, Uriel, talk.
Oh, hi there. Can you hear me now?
There, it's working. Yay,
All right.
yay. Um, Uriel is upstaging the kitty. You're not
No, I wouldn't
wrong.
upstage a cat. That'd be
You're
so
not
filthy.
wrong, okay? So,
That'd make me feel so terrible about my. I wouldn't do that to a cat.
hmm. But yeah, I was just now he's just oh, motherfucker. He's super quiet, bruh. Oh, that's right. Talk now.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I think that's good. I
All
just
right.
have my settings. No, don't be sorry, dude. Don't be sorry. It's a new location and everything. She's sitting on my keyboard. Oh dear.
Oh,
Oh dear. Guys, that's what she said.
this is
Her,
what happens.
her contribution. Hello, Contempo Enterprises. Clove, baby, you can't sit on my keyboard because yes, anyways, we're talking about lore and like
What Twitch stream are we on right
we
now?
are on the New Eden Post.
All right.
Yes, the New Eden Post. Hey, Clovey baby, I love you and I want you to sit on here. Sit right here, please. Don't go over there. Look, you get pets right there. Yeah, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about lore. Hey, thank you very much, Little High Res. We really appreciate that. Um, where to begin? Yeah, we were talking about
Where to
lore
begin? Yeah.
couple weeks
A
ago,
couple
and
of
we were
weeks back.
yeah,
And then we
and
decided we'd get this going.
yes,
So
and I'm so happy we did that.
I'm happy as well. It's nice to just chat
I'm just
about this
trying to
stuff.
think like where we left off, and like it
Can't
was mainly the
recall.
drifters. We
It
were
was
left
about
off.
drifter stuff. I think that's where we were.
But
That
like
feels about right.
now, do you want to go like all the way back, like to the beginning
How
of
about
like the
honestly,
Eve
just
Gate and
pick something
everything?
and I'll start with that. Or we can have
Chat
see
now.
what people have, what sorts of questions if anyone wants to talk about anything specific.
Listen, yeah, let's do that. I'm just, you know what? One thing I really want to talk about which faction. So Amar Kaldari, yes, hi baby. Amar Kaldari, Galente, and Mimitar. Out of the four factions, who had the first um capsuleer technology, like the clone and everything?
So there's a difference between so okay, capsuleers as we have them today. There's a bit of a difference between that and the first time the capsule was used or seen by anyone.
Yeah.
Currently, what we use is, obviously the capsule you play as in game. It is a combination of one thing and another. So the pod itself is actually a invention, apparently, of the Jove Directorate, the Third Jove Empire,
Okay.
and it was first given to a member of the Kaldari state, the Ishikone. So they exchanged information on how to make
Oh.
the pod for just other information that the Kaldari could give them. But at this time, it did not have any sort of cloning stuff built into it. So it helped the Kaldari actually in the Galente Kaldari War because it helped them get an edge over the Galente and all their drones and everything, and what they obviously did very well with. It sort of evened the odds pretty
Don't
effectively
mess with the
during that time.
drones.
However, outside of that sort of setting, it really wasn't used or seen much because it was one very scary and two like you could get locked in it, not locked in it, but you could get mind locked basically,
Yeah.
and you'd be stuck in this catatonic state, and it was just generally quite terrible. So people
Now,
didn't want to use it unless they definitely had to.
now in the first version of the pod, they still had that like weird fluid in there, correct?
Yes, it was
Okay.
always it's a hydrostatic capsule is the name for it, I think.
Okay.
And the way that worked was, you just float in it and you sort of lose your senses and take on the senses of, all right, I'm feeling the input from this ship and I'm sort of becoming the ship.
Okay.
And that's how it works. And
Okay.
then the cloning stuff was actually added later on when I forget the exact details behind that, but someone decided, hey, we have this cloning technology that is super duper sensitive because it's got to have you standing, totally still to have your brain scan and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not very applicable for day to day, like person walking around. If they die, they are dead because you can't be cloned like that because you need a delicate setup. But then someone was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh hey, you know what we have that would work really well with that? The capsule. So they put them together, and then that's how we got where we are.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Perfect. All right, Kay. I'm glad. Thank you very much for that. I'm just like, where the fuck did that come from? Because I remember reading it something in a book, um, and then just yeah. No, thank you. Okay, and then so Lohira is actually you said, oh, where we ended off was where the Drifters were pulling back after they fucked up the Amarian
Right, we
Empire.
did do that. Okay. Well, you know what? I can just give a general overview of the drifters going back to that, and then just go through what I left off on, I guess, if that's
Okay,
all right.
please.
That feels like it could work. All right. So the drifters, they are a thing. They first showed up in 2015. February 2015. Uh, I was very excited at that time. The trailer they put out at FanFest that year, the Emergent Threats trailer, they actually, so the one about the drifters, it actually used some audio clips of
Mm-hmm.
voices from the Hydrostatic podcast thing that me and some other friends used to do. And my voice is actually in that trailer for a very short clip, along with Ashtarothi and a few others. So that's very fun.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's a fun little story. And
Okay.
it's a decent, little trailer thing. It's very exciting. That said, it's not like they've done much with the Drifters in terms of story development since then on their side. So
True. Well,
that's
like
the
the
thing.
Drifters,
Anyhow, though,
they're just
what has been done with the Drifters was pretty fun, though. So, all right, origins of all that. October 2014, you have the Sisters of Eve start noticing some really weird changes to sleeper activity. This wasn't reflected in game, really. I think there might have been some adjustments to sleeper things at the time. I don't remember. Either way, though, it was a run up to it because a couple months later, you had what was it? The sleeper caches were
yeah.
starting to show up. Those exploration sites, the data sites, which are sleeper enclaves and facilities in K space that are broken open and just blown up, and like stuff's been taken from them. And you go in and you can pick apart what's left. That's what those sites are. Any of the sleeper caches.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know, who found these, who decloaked them, who blew them up. We didn't really know yet. But then you had the circadian seeker drones start to fly around. Those spooky little ones with the head that
Yep.
like wiggles side to side. I like those guys,
They're
the
like the
sleepers.
little bugs and everything.
Yeah, those ones are fun. Yeah, they have their little legs and then the head, and then that ball that comes out of the back that everyone was speculating on. What is that? They never said it or anything, but it just looks cool, I guess. So those guys started showing up, started scanning things. Everyone was like, "Okay, what's going on? They're not shooting us, but be careful." And then you have these giant Jove observatory things start to decloak as well when Caroline's star happened, which was big star with a bunch of really old tech, big Dyson swarm power collection stuff around it, way out
Mm-hmm.
in where the northeast, Jove space, where that is, that blew up. I can give more detail on it later if you want to go into the specifics of
Please.
it, because it's a lot of really good stuff, and there's a whole chronicle that talks about it. So when that happened, these Jove observatories, which belonged to the third Jove Empire, not the Sleepers, not the Drifters, any of them, but the third Jove Empire, the Jove Directorate, uh, these things started to decloak because their whole network failed because stuff got really, really
Yep.
screwed up in Jove space. And as they finish decloaking, these seekers start to start salvage them. They start picking them apart, uh, taking pieces of them. The Antikythera elements, that's where they actually came from for the for that was the only source for a long time.
And
By
that's like
using
all the
Entosis links
and
on those, you could get Antikythera elements and these gleaned information things.
and then
You
that's
can still
like
do
all the
that, by the way.
blue loot, correct? Of
Sorry,
like
what?
that's all like the blue loot and everything of just like the sleepers network array or whatever stuff like that. Whenever you kill sleepers.
So that's not what comes out of the observatories.
Okay.
Yeah. So what comes out of that, you
Oh,
needed the Antikythera element to build
oh,
Entosis
oh,
links and
oh,
stuff.
sorry, I got mixed up. So what you were talking about is whenever you're doing a wormhole site and then the drifter trigger spawns, You
Oh,
blow
that's a
that
different
up.
thing. Yeah,
Oh, sorry. I
yeah.
thought you were talking
No,
about
no, no. Yeah, yeah.
that.
That's all right. I can talk about that too, though. Don't worry. It's all very all over the place. It's a lot of stuff that happened over a long period of time. My goodness, it's too much. But yeah, the Jove observatories get picked apart by seeker drones, and they actually have like 5 or 6 different progressing phases, of models of them being broken down more. And they actually changed them to the second to last one, I think, with Poshfen's release last year. So
Mm-hmm.
just no real big reason, but they did. And then later on, you have the drifters finally show up coming out of wormholes that we initially actually couldn't go through. Those unidentified wormholes, they're
Yeah.
called, and those would only appear in systems with the Jove Observatory. They would also come and salvage stuff, and if you interfered with them on grid with the unidentified wormhole or the Jove Observatory at all, you would be summarily killed. That's what the drifters
But
did.
that doesn't happen anymore because like the whole Drifter invasion got pushed back, correct?
See, they actually still do that. So if you're on grid
Oh,
with them at an unidentified wormhole or Jove Observatory, watch out.
okay.
Yeah, so they don't take
Hmm.
kindly to it. They still don't. Uh, that said, drifters only so you can kill. This is more mechanic stuff here, but if you have circadian seekers in system, and there's no unidentified wormhole. Sorry, they're not called circadian seekers anymore. Actually, now that I remember, they're the Autothesian Lancers
Yes.
because the circadian seekers they changed to just be the ones that showed up in like the tutorial and some like areas like that a while back when they were doing some NPE stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, Autothesian Lancers are what you'll see them as now. If there
Okay.
isn't an if there isn't an unidentified wormhole in the system with the Jove Observatory, you'll still have seekers that will inspect the observatory and they'll shoot you if you get too close. If you shoot enough of them, then reinforcements come. And that can either be more of them or it can be drifter cruisers.
Now,
And I think drifter battleships can still show up because that's what happened originally. But then they started adding the cruisers, and that's what would
how
happen.
can they show up when there is no like Jove Observatory or
In a
like
wormhole, I mean, I guess they can just kind of come in a different way. It's just not a thing we see. It's just a reinforcement wave. But when the
okay.
wormholes are open, you'll have drifter battleships roaming around pretty much the whole time. So watch out.
Then you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something. So anyhow, what the drifters were actually doing, what they are, all of that. The drifters came out of the sleeper VR. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go back a little farther. It always happens like this. So okay, long story short, the sleepers are racially, ethnically, they're Jove. And a couple thousand years ago, the second Jove Empire, the one preceding the one that we have now, and the second one was a lot better than the third, in terms of what they had, what kind of tech they had, how much space they had claimed, how many people they had. In that time, the sleepers became sort of the elite, one of the elite kind of groups of that empire because they lived in a virtual world, and eventually they developed the ability to simulate time at a faster rate than on the outside. So
Hmm.
basically, time dilation virtually, and from that they were able to perfectly simulate real conditions and explode their technological capabilities. So they just got higher and higher and higher.
Hmm.
Nothing could really keep up with them. And the admins that were in charge of that VR basically controlled what was going in and coming out. So any of the advancements, they said whether or not it could go out to the rest of the Jove. And then at some point, the Jove disease shows up, which is this apparently, genetic malady. It's like something that's broken in the very, code of them because they'd been modifying themselves for a very long time. Records from the earliest times that they had started modifying themselves during the first Jove Empire were long lost because that empire had also collapsed. Something was wrong, something went wrong, and it's basically, the Jove disease is a fatal, always fatal, inevitable condition for ethnic Jove. At least, well, some of them, I guess, because some people seem to have found solutions. It seems like the sleepers weren't so affected. And when the Jove were saying to the sleepers, please help us, maybe you can do something about this. And they said no. And they turned out to, it seems
Typical
as if
Joves.
they were kind of safe in their
No.
VR world. All the Jove on the outside said, we're going to get you. So they just chased, they went after them. And then the sleepers ended up escaping into wormhole space where they already had stuff set up, but they migrated entirely into there when they were chased. And they closed the doors behind them. Doors being wormholes, of course.
Fuck this shit. I'm out.
And once they were in there and they set themselves up, they all went to slumber, presumably not forever, but it turns out like no one had any plans to wake them up, it seems. But in those thousands of years of runtime since then, a couple thousand at least, over time. So have you? Okay, I already mentioned this last time, but have you ever watched Tron Legacy?
Oh my god, I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah,
what you were talking about, the ISOs or whatever.
yes, yeah. So, sapient, real intelligences that cropped up spontaneously in a virtual world. That's what started to happen in the sleeper VR. So
Mm-hmm.
these people would just come into existence inside of it that never existed before, and they were intrinsically aware that their world was fake, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't like that. And they start going around telling all the sleepers that, and the sleepers, aren't aware of it when they're in the VR. So
Mm-hmm.
things start breaking. Sleepers are fighting them, and the admins of the VR start fighting against them too. They're called. They only ever had a name. It's called the Others, and those guys are what a lot of people presume to have become the Drifters, basically. So in this VR world, they were there. They wanted to get out.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't because they didn't have bodies. They weren't real in the first place. And if you go into wormhole space now, you don't see any signs of the admins of the sleeper VR left. None of them. They're gone. Nothing left there.
Hi.
Aw.
Lily, come here. Hi. Look. Dog.
Good dog. My dog is
Burmy.
in the other room. If
It's
he
a
comes out, I'll
Burmy
point the
doodle.
camera down.
Yep. Go. Bye.
Sweet kitty cat.
Oh,
Actually,
she's right here on my desk.
I'm gonna share a link to this actually on my
Yes,
Twitter.
please, please share
See if
all the
anyone else wants
links
to
and
tune in real
everything.
quick.
Also,
I'll
folks, we
get back
do
to what I
have a
was talking
lore
about after.
chat channel and everything in nice Discord. I'm being okay for that. Why do the Lancers want my corpses? Ooh, that's a good question. Lily, shut the fuck up. Sorry, the dog loves to nonstop bark. Um, that is a great question, Cal. Um, why do Lancers want corpses?
Sorry, I'm just trying to finish
No
tweeting this
worries.
real quick.
I mean, but like, wouldn't they also be using like the dead corpses to take apart and create their own corpses
Yeah,
for?
that's actually what they were doing.
Ha,
So,
guys.
yeah, so the drifters. So, okay, lots of sleepers, lots of them stuck in these big cryopods forever, basically, kind of rotting away. Their bodies break down. They can die over time, and then the drifters also are breaking off. They're breaking open some sleeper enclaves and taking bodies out of them and stuff too. And they take bodies. They put a bunch of implants in them, so they can enter these bodies and use them as their own.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think, why the heck would they, just make human bodies when they could just live in machines and stuff? But that's also a part of why a lot of people say, all right, yeah, they probably are the others. Because the whole thing with them was, we're fake. We want to be in the real world. What's a more human desire than to be human? They just wanted to make real bodies for themselves. So that's kind of what happened. Is
Mm-hmm.
the presumption. Nothing's ever been set out right for that, but it's just another component of all these things. So with that, the he had one of these others eventually go and get inside of the head of the Amar Empress Jamil Sorum. And that was able to happen because she was cloned secretly after she died, in the succession trials in IRL 2003, I think. And there was an implant in her head that was this, it was Jove in origin, her kind of handler. He's an asshole. He just basically controlled her life. He found this technology out at the site of the Battle of Atioth, which was where the Amar and the Jove had a big fight, and it went really bad for the Amar. He found stuff there. He put it in the head of this new clone. And basically what it was think of faster than light comms, like how we have local and stuff. You can talk to anywhere, talk to anyone anywhere instantly in Eve. It's that, but in someone's head, and that's what that was. And he had her linked up to different like people who were high up and knew about her and stuff like that, so she could basically be posed as like a god. And what this pretty much allowed, though, also was when she was being cloned, one of these others was somehow able to transmit and get in her head, literally, and change some of the parameters for the clone being grown, made space for itself by having more implants be added by the machines and stuff that were making the clone, and then it just lived in there with her. They did not have a good relationship. She hated it, definitely, and it was very hateful as well, very mean, very ruthless. Just wanted to do what it wanted to do. And first it set out by revealing the location of some old Terran tech around the Eve Gate somewhere, and they turned that into the super weapon that you have, Jamil's Abaddon. You see like Empyrean Age, that old trailer, all that old stuff.
Bless.
Yep. And then you
Wait,
have
wait. On Empyrean Age book, that's her Abaddon?
yeah, uh-huh. Well, I'm not sure if
What?
that's it on the cover. It probably is.
I'm
To be
not,
honest with you.
because like,
No,
yo,
you don't see
that's
it on this cover, at least. It's
okay.
not
Wait,
on the
no,
one I have.
that's the cargo cruiser that Vince and the others were on, right?
That on the cover, I think, was the Ragnarok that gets blown up by her Abaddon. But yeah, the
That's
cargo.
it.
So I'm pretty sure total aside here, the ship that Vince and the others fly, that like salvage ship they did, I think it was a Lynx, which actually exists in the game, not as a playable ship,
I was about to
but
say,
it is
like,
one of the Angel
where is
Cartel
it?
ships.
Oh, okay. How do you spell that? Lynx?
Yep, but you can't actually search it in game either, which is
Oh,
funny.
come
I will
on.
generate a little link for you though, so you
Yes, please,
can
because
make a
then I
little
will put
in-game
it up
link.
on screen. Because,
I'm gonna
like,
do this for you in 1 second. Let's
I always,
see.
not gonna lie, I knew they were Caldari, so I always pictured, like, a badger or something.
Yeah,
Whenever they were flying that. Guys, if you haven't read the Eve books, read the books. They're amazing.
they have some value to them. I would not call them amazing literature, but they give you information on the world. Empyrean Age is personally my least favorite one.
Templar
Um,
1 is mine.
yeah,
Sorry, Templar 1 is my most favorite.
Templar 1 is by far my favorite as well.
Yeah. It's
Anyhow,
just
let me
so
put
good.
this link into the Twitch chat.
Tony G cringe.
A lot of people dislike some things Tony Gonzalez did. Ooh,
Hi baby.
I won't get too deep
Yes.
into it, but he
Hi.
had a very black and white view of the very much not black and white factions of Eve,
Mhm.
and that caused a lot of friction and issues. Anyhow,
Some suspicious.
I posted a little
It
quip.
did not show.
Posted a little quip in the Twitch chat just here. Did it not show up?
Well, it just
It doesn't work in the Twitch chat. If
oh,
you copy
okay.
that and open the notepad in game, paste that
Oh.
into there, it'll create the link, and then
Oh
you can
my
see it.
god. Oh my god. I am doing that right now for y'all.
So that is actually the ship that Vince and the others in those books fly. And it's a really neat one. There's a lot of cool ships that don't exist for players to fly, but do exist in the game. Most of them are Angel Cartel ships. There's like 7 or 8 of them. Let's see.
Oh.
And to
Alright, here we go.
jail ain't whatever it is in chat. I'm old enough to not care that I have stuffed animals behind me on a stream,
Oh, it's a
mostly.
frigate. Also, like, I had shoulder cat earlier, so like, do you think I care? Um, Jalen, listen, you could always be like in your 50s and have a bunch of stuffed animals, so it's
No,
okay.
I will.
Okay, let me get this.
Yeah, there's no
So,
offense taken. I know how Eve and everything is.
in,
If back to drifters and stuff though, if you want to talk about stuff. All
yes,
that.
please.
So the drifters, the other got in Jamil's head, started revealing little bits of tech, trying to enact its grand plans, which we never got the full details of course. We can pretty much puzzle them out. After the stuff with the Abaddon and Empyrean Age, it basically parked that Abaddon next to a giant old, very old, station where it also had a bunch of rogue drones basically gathering Isogen 5 near, blue type O1 stars or AO. I can't remember what the original one was. They would gather that stuff, Isogen 5, which is basically, the MacGuffin material in Eve for space-time, shenanigans, messing with stuff like that, making wormholes, that sort of thing.
Red
That's what it
line.
is.
Sorry to interrupt. Red line's like, I'm sorry. Why can't we fly that? Honestly, okay. Let me put it back up.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
When
I
I
very much
see
like that
this
ship.
thing, I think of Serenity from Firefly. Like, I'm sorry. That is amazing. Here, you know what? Let's do that so you can still see us and everything. Like, come on. That is so fucking beautiful. Like, CC, please. You know what, guys? Guys, CCP, bring in faction DSTs and everything, because I would love to do that. I know y'all are like, but like, how cool would that be? They brought
Well,
in a
given that this one is
faction
a frigate, it makes
MTU.
it a little funnier.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Like, and you can only carry corpses or exotic dancers on
some
this.
funny little things. Yeah, the thing is, for ships like this, if they introduced this one, there wouldn't be any equivalent for it on any of the other factions, which would, I guess that's a reason for them not to have done it, because then they'd have to think of other stuff to put in for others. I just want to fly it someday. It looks nice. It's pretty. The Angel Cartel has by far the most ship hulls in the game. And another fun little fact: the Cinnaball is actually classified. Its model in the files is a battle cruiser. That's what it's called.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's why
Cinnaball?
in missions and stuff, you'll always see Angel battle cruisers. They use the Cinnaball as well. It's funny stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. They are one of my favorites, though. They got a lot of neat stuff going. Anyhow, back
Hmm.
to the Drifter things, though.
Yes.
Jamil's head, Drifter in her head, well, the other in her head, collecting Isogen 5 at a bunch of different stations all over. It's like 9 or 10 or 11 different stations it had hidden away where rogue drones were being forced to collect Isogen 5 for a unknown purpose. But it's very certain that they were on the side of the other, or at least that it was in control of them, because the Abaddon was parked at one of these and it was getting refueled by these same rogue drones. And then one day, the Sisters of Eve, the Blood Raiders, and some people from the Thucker tribe all came in and found it, and the end result was it getting blown up. And when it blew up, a lot of things went really weird because, space-time weirdness, it's a science fiction setting. And wormholes opened back to Anoikis, wormhole space, where we know it as, where it was closed for many, many years before because the sleepers closed the doors behind them. When
Mm-hmm.
we start coming in, we start, seeing all the sleeper things in there, start raiding stuff, picking stuff up, and the other has to adjust its plans because things, probably weren't planned to happen at that time. Things weren't ready yet when those caches were blown up. Because, the only reason it would have been collecting the Isogen 5 there at all would have been to, eventually reopen wormholes. But it didn't happen at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you have there, then you have the other, through Jamil, start making the Amar develop clone soldiers, which are, well, clone soldiers. Initially, what they did was just rip implants out of sleepers, like actual living sleepers at sleeper enclaves, shove them into, clones, put people's minds into those in the implant, in the head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you make a clone soldier. They would be
Yeah.
made with that, literally. That's how they did it. But the catch here was that all of these ones they were collecting, these sleeper implants, had the minds, the infomorphs of
Of.
sometimes, regular sleepers and sometimes others, these ones that didn't have bodies to begin with in them. And the other, more or less, was trying to create an army for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it was kind of punishing some sleepers who went against it because he would have, them in these implants that were ripped out of their bodies and put into a person, and now they're just off, in hell forever because they're, living, cohabitating a mind with someone. Not good times. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
Dust Chronicles, if you can find them anywhere, the Dust 514 Chronicles go into that. And there's one in the character in Templar 1 also speaks with a sleeper in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
Vince is sleeping with a sleeper in his head, correct?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Templar 1, that character. I always wonder what happened to him because they never really gave him a final end
Uh,
of his story.
yeah, that's true. If I had my
A
book, I
lot of the
would.
Tony Gonzalez stuff seems to have been sort of depreciated over time. And, they sort of phased most of it out as best they could. If you've noticed, they've killed off most of the people involved with his
Mm-hmm.
stories. In characters. They didn't kill real people, thankfully. Um, so with that, the other makes clone soldiers. And then one Amar guy a Jove guy from the, Third Jove Empire, who is now, some like infomorph in a drone because he died at some point. It's very confusing, but that also kind of relates to the Trigs, and I can talk about that later. He warns the guy. That guy warns Jamil, who gets them to stop them using the sleeper implants
Mm-hmm.
in the clones, and they end up developing, they reverse engineer them and find a different way to do it so they don't have to use those ones. And that just totally, puts a stopper in whatever plans the other had with that. Then you have a couple years go by, not much happens. But then in 2014, where we started at the beginning here, about, let's see, in September of the beginning. So it was said in the lore, in a news article in the later end of the year, that Jamil Sorum, basically around the time the Sisters of Eve noticed weird sleeper activity, a little before that, Jamil Sorum actually stopped appearing in public and was
Mm-hmm.
heard to have been very, very unwell, very ill. And if you read the books, you know that happens because her and the other
Mm-hmm.
fight a lot, and sometimes it's being a lot more forceful about things. So just before all this started, it was starting to do things, and she had to not, she wasn't appearing in public for a while. Then that
Mm-hmm.
stuff happens. The Sleeper activity is observed. Sleeper caches are seen, smashed open by some unknown force at this time. You actually have the shattered wormholes open with Thera at the same, with Caroline Star happening. When you had that happen, there's some other, all the shattered wormhole systems are a consequence of the Caroline Star. And in the Sancha systems there, the ones that have some Sancha instead of sleepers, you can find these things called silent battlegrounds, a big relic site, relic and data site. And in those, you have a bunch of Sancha ships, all broken, a bunch of sleeper, enclaves and stuff all wrecked, and then unidentified wreckage, which was seen in the middle. And, we're like, oh, what's this supposed to be? Eventually, of course, the drifters show up, and it's immediately obvious that, oh, okay, the drifters were the ones who smashed open all the caches, and they're the ones fighting the Sancha here. And, the drifters start to do their thing, which was, what their thing is be very quiet about everything, not talk to anyone, and shoot anyone who they don't like.
To be
They're
fair,
prideful. They don't want
the
anyone else's help.
deserve to be shot no matter what.
Yeah.
Because that lore of what the Sancha is wanting to do and everything, that's just like...
Yeah, the
that's
Sancha are objectively
messed up.
probably one of the worst groups in Eve's setting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want
It's weird to say
Sancha,
that, put them above the drifters
then Blood
even.
Raiders.
The Blood Raiders, see, the thing is, despite how weird and culty they are, all of the people in the Blood Raiders are still acting on their own free will.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
Sancha,
of just how they're like,
Sancha
hey,
Kuvake is, he wants to basically be god of all of them, megalomaniacal, crazy man who has implants and all sorts of controls in all of his citizens and stuff to literally just slave them to his will. And they all love him, all that sort of thing. Some people who aren't under that because he needs people who aren't, totally unable to think for themselves. But no, Sancha is definitely up there at the worst.
Yeah, they're
What the drifters do though, they've done some bad stuff too. In the time since they appeared, like remember the blackout when that was happening?
Oh, bring back blackout.
They were going around and smashing open civilian facilities deep out in Nullsec and taking not only all the resources but all the people too. And probably not a good thing what happened to all those people, considering they need to build bodies for themselves. Not happy times. And it's funny that the Trigs were the big bad and the big faction and stuff happening in the last year with their invasions, where even in lore it was described as they were only really doing things militarily for the most part. They're not, going out of their way to just exterminate people and, eat them for resources. The Trigs are weird in their own way. I want to see more of that develop. I really hope we do soon.
I really do too.
Yeah.
Because, like, I really do too. Because, like, think about it. It's like, is Pachaming going to expand and everything? Or, like, what's going to happen? We don't know.
No, there's a lot of questions that have not been answered. And there's some questions that it's very weird that they haven't been answered yet. There's some specific ones. Like, what do they look like under that mask? Like, there's no reason that if we've been fighting them, for over a year, blowing up their ships in K-Space, these ships that are actually known to have crew on them, why hasn't anyone been able to, see what they look like under there? It's just like there's some stuff that's lacking in what's been given to the players that kind of makes the narrative a bit funny to play with.
So, the first Trig ship that did get captured by, was it Concord that captured it?
Like, the DED.
Yeah, didn't the DED get, like, some of the Triglavians as well? And didn't they study
Yes, they did.
them?
It was a crewed ship. That was the case.
And that ship just randomly appeared, correct?
Sorry, what?
That ship just randomly
appeared. It came out of the abyss, basically, and they somehow captured it. The encounter... So if you look at the Triglavian survival suit encounter in parentheses, the description of that talks about that, and those ones, the specifications for those clothes were taken from that ship, from the crew on that. And talks about a little bit, doesn't really give you any other information, but, it is what it is. It's neat. The Trigs and the Drifters are very intimately connected. That's a big thing.
But they hate each other.
Yes, they do. Very weird.
I want to say they're like brother and sister, just constantly fighting.
Yeah, I'd say more like cousins who really hate each other.
Okay, yeah.
And then you have the modern Jove who are really more or less gone altogether. That's, the baby cousin who's
just like, fuck
not able
shit.
to really affect
I'm
either
doing
of
my
those
own
two.
thing. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, the conflict between the Drifters and the Trigs is very, war in heaven. kind of thing.
Very like kind of crusade style.
Uh, I don't know about Crusade, but the Drifters definitely want to subdue the Trigs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, conquer them. Because we'll get about we talked a bit about the Drifters and like what they've done, but a bit about who they are and who they want to be and what they want to do. It's fun to talk about too. So names are an important thing in Eve. A lot of context can be drawn from the words that CCP has used for things. All the Drifters operate under a group called the Vigilant Tyrannos, which
Mm-hmm.
means watchful tyrants. And the group in charge of the Second Jove Empire were the Tyrants. So they basically named themselves after them, coming out into the real world, wanting to be a real faction, a real
Mm-hmm.
empire. Very prideful. They took up that legacy, kind of took up that mantle, and they're off doing their own thing. They might do it a little different than those old tyrants would, but that's who they modeled themselves after. And what the tyrants actually did way back was basically find all the different splintered factions of the Jove that existed after the first empire collapsed,
Mm-hmm.
said, "Join us or we will kill you," and everyone joined them. So
Yep.
that's how they made the second empire happen. That said, as violent as that sounds, it's more like think of like what was it, ancient Roman stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where
Join the Roman Empire or die.
join the Roman Empire, you can live as you have been, pay some taxes, and just continue to live just
Yeah.
fine. That's basically how it was. Everyone was
Mm-hmm.
actually, it was overall a pretty good system, which is funny to say. Yeah. And then you actually have a bit of that work in more with the structure of the drifters as well. If you see the drifters, I've talked about this one before, I've made forum posts. The drifters CEO in the, the
Mm-hmm.
Vigilant Tyrannos Corporation, I say CEO with, you know, heavy quotation marks because it's just more there for gameplay mechanics. But the Tyrannos Strategos is an important figure there. Then you also have the Tyrannos Navarchos, which showed up in Poshven, and then you have the Tyrannos Polemos, who is also in Poshven, flying the strongest drifter ship that exists in the game outside of the one that you fight in Wormholes, which is more of a dreadnought anyhow. It just has the battleship model.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those three are the only three that have, instead of Apollo Tyrannos, Artemis Tyrannos, all the other ones, they're the only ones that have Tyrannos first. And each of those is actually a role basically in old, you know, ancient different parts of ancient Greece, military ranks basically, or military roles more or less. Navarchos is very straightforward. It's basically an admiral. Strategos is general, more or less. The role they played in, at least in Athens and a couple other places in Greece at that time. You had sort of a council of strategoi that would vote on stuff together and decide things for the whole. They were the top of the military. But before they were there, you had a role, basically the supreme commander of military, the Polemarchos, and
Wait,
that one
Polo
basically.
like Polo?
So Polemarchos,
Oh, Polo.
Pole. Yeah, that was the title for that, and that guy basically was in charge, totally for a while. Then eventually ceded that role to. There were some reforms and things changed, and it became the Strategos that were making all the decisions. But the Polemarchos still existed as a tiebreaker if they needed it, basically to the casting vote to break a stalemate, decide when the rest can't be
Mm-hmm.
decided. You can actually see that though. So okay, my personal theory, this is a theory, is that the Drifters' real person in charge for the longest time was the other that was in Jamil Sorum's head, and it was the one behind a lot of stuff happening. Uh, you have the Tyrannos Strategos, the one in charge of the Drifters, CEO that whole time since they first showed up for everyone, being able to see them. Then you got, oh hey, look who's showing up.
Oh, hello.
Let's
All
let
right,
her
I
connect.
have to
Actually,
adjust.
all right, let's let her get in here real quick.
uh,
Hi down there. Can you see?
bear with
I'm looking
me.
in the window.
Good morning.
Hello.
I don't know if she could hear us.
I don't know if she can.
Hello,
I'm not
Diletta.
in.
We are
Pardon?
here. We are hanging out. How are you doing?
Huh?
Honestly, I'm not feeling super hot.
Yeah.
So I got the vaccine today.
Yeah, I see. Yeah,
Oh.
makes you feel a little crappy for a bit, I hear, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, I just
It's okay, Diletta.
feel like I'm hungover. Because it's the Johnson and Johnson one.
Oh, you got the one-shot one.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, welcome to Lasers and Lace Lore Talk.
Welcome back.
Uh, sorry, I'm just adjusting on slobs, so just bear with me. And
Getting us all set back up the way we were.
you got it.
All right, so what did I just stop on when I was saying? Okay, so about the ranks and stuff, the way the drifters are set up. The other that was in Jamil's head, I personally think was the one that was at least leading all of the drifters, basically the others, all of them, sort of as their ruthless visionary leader. Because way back in the Second Jove Empire, you had a guy named Miko Bor who did the same thing. He was the one who started it all, made the
I'm
Second
gonna go
Empire
get my
basically
rope
happen
because I can get
in
the
the first place.
chills. Fuck. Oh.
And after
that was
it went
great.
to, K-Space,
I know,
went to
it's
Jamil
funny.
Storm's head, obviously
Sasha
someone else
thinks
would have
so
had to
too.
be taking
Oh
care of
god.
stuff.
Sorry, folks.
No, it's fine. We're having fun here.
Are we?
You
I mean,
know
are
it.
we?
We're always having fun.
You doing okay?
Ugh. Kicking around
Go
in the
ahead.
kitchen looking for the Tylenol.
Take your time, Diletta.
You need what you need.
And honestly, I'm probably gonna be getting the Pfizer one, and I'm probably gonna have to take the next day off work.
Yeah, here after like the second dose is when it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
See, I would very much like to be able to get it, but at this time, I'm not working at all, and I'm not, close by anyone who is, potentially giving it to me, and I'm not at any risk really for anything, apparently, medically. So there's just I'm not going to get it for a while, probably.
Yeah, I
So
lucked
just have
out,
to continue to be
and my
careful.
mom signed me up on a wait list. And they called me just a few days later. Be like, yo, you show up within an hour?
You
I
can
was
get
like,
it.
all right. Do we have Tylenol? My parents aren't here, so I'm just fumbling around the house.
It's okay.
Totally just left me here.
So we were talking about the drifters.
Yes, all right. So I'll jump back into that. Yeah, all right. So the one that was in Jamil's head, I think that was the one in charge of all the drifters, or is, or maybe not anymore. So if you want to make some mirrors to the actual real life lore of those names that they've used for all of them, the Polemarchos was initially the position on top. It eventually ceded its top role to the Strategos. You have the Strategos as the one in charge of the drifters there, and you have the other who was in Jamil's head, not with them for a very long time. They come in and they come and blow up Jamil. But what we also know about things is the drifters have a way to take an infomorph basically when well, at least under specific conditions that we can't really well define, but they can kidnap an infomorph mid clone transfer basically. And in addition to that, if they could transmit, if the other could be transmitted in through the implant in Jamil's head, why couldn't it also be taken back out the same way?
That actually gives me a question. So you know how you were saying about the other, what we thought was like the head honcho of the drifters.
Mm-hmm.
Could they transfer their consciousness to another, like almost like the clone transfer, or are they locked to that implant that is in that body?
So the drifters are actually a really funny thing. We actually know nothing about the way they work, but if I can just go totally into some fun little tinfoil, I've loved to talk about this stuff for a long time. So the way the clone soldiers work, the way they are, is that there is a base, server hosting, all right, this is this individual.
A data center or whatever?
Yeah. What they do is, throw that into a clone that has an implant that can house it. And when that clone dies, whatever new information has been added on is just flashed back to the main server backup of that person, and they can put that into a new one. And that's different. That's different compared to Capsuleers, where it just takes a full scanner brain and builds that in a new clone. With the clone soldiers, it's only the information stored in this implant, and they take whatever new stuff, add it onto the base stack. the way the drifters are, that they build bodies and stuff, they don't have pods or anything. They're directly connected to their ships and all of that. And it also, all right, to say it in short, I think it'd be very neat for the drifters to be single minds in many bodies, as opposed to the Trigs, who are multiple minds in one body, each of the Troika type things. So basically, think of them as a mirror of it if you want to come up with some cool thematic
So almost
thing.
like how the Geth and Mass Effect of the Geth and Mass Effect is almost like the Trigs, that it's many minds in one body, because that's
That's more like that. So I've heard.
Sorry.
No, but that's also good to bring up. I mean, yeah, So the drifters basically, if you can have a base stack of something, put that into a bunch of different bodies. When they die, send their information back to the main one. Every other one that goes out has a little more info to go off of.
So the first option of what you said is it's obviously one mind in one body, but then they're all connected to a neural network that they can communicate with each other, correct?
Yeah, they're connected in some way. But if I had to wager, I mean, you have all these drifters with the same names. I don't think they're all the same drifters. But I think that if they wanted to do it, CCP could write it so the drifters are, you have a single individual.
Yes.
And they take that and they put the output from that, how they would with the clone soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Take it, put it, instead of putting it into just one body, put it into a whole bunch of them, because they don't have
and then
people.
all simultaneously at once, they all this person is in Tenal, the other person is in a wormhole, whatever.
Yeah. And they're all, they're all obviously individuals once you split them up in that way. But I think, basically, I just think that would be neat.
But if they are split up in that way, are they still able to, like, if, say, we were under that premise of what you said about one person having controlling multiple, would they be able to, if they are all split up, would they be able to,
I don't think it would be one person individually controlling multiple. Each of them would be their own individual, but they would have come from the same. They're copies, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, none of that's known. I just think that would be neat to pose that in direct, mirroring to how the Trigs work. Back to the head honcho of the drifters, though, and all of that. When the drifters come and smash, Jamil's pod, presumably to take back the other. After that point, you would think, oh, hey, it's gonna start doing whatever it wanted to, right? Whatever its plans were. You have the Amar Throne World's invasion by the drifters that had to be stopped very early because there were a lot of big issues with it in the game. Obviously there were mechanical issues for why they stopped that. But if you take that, the fact that it started and stopped completely out of nowhere without any goals seemingly having been accomplished, you have the other known to have been in the same head as Jamil, and you also have the Inheritance Chronicle talk about Jamil Storm entangling herself with the other, intermingling with it, rather, more than was necessary. Back to theory stuff, just because I love to tinfoil about it. If Jamil Sorum, or some part of her, came back with the other, and instead of it just being them getting that thing out, she can mess with that thing. Instead of, she's in its head, instead of it just being in her head. And it's just a very big reversal.
Yeah.
She can mess it up. If they wanted to, CCP could take the story and say, all right, the invasion, the drifters started this huge invasion in the Amar Throne Worlds, but why did they stop so suddenly? It could be, okay, the other came back, it's in charge now, and then turns out it has something in its head that's really messing it up, and they have to stop what they're doing. Either that or Jamil Storm, some, whatever's left of her in it directly makes it stop doing the invasions in some way.
And once again,
I think
died,
this is just
right?
a neat way to explain away the fact that those invasions had to stop, because they were very neat at the time. Yeah. Past that, though, then we get more into, the names that I've been talking about. The Strategos remained in charge of the drifters. And then, a while after Jamil got killed, you had a in-game event where you had the drifters attacking Society of Conscious Thought assets, basically. This was the one when they released the Praxis, actually. So that would be... That's a number of years ago now. But in this event, basically, you could get an escalation of the regular site that would lead to a place where they had drifter hives getting brought into K-Space. And what was guarding that was a drifter named Tyrannos Polymos, which was the first one we saw that, apart from the Tyrannos Strategos,
hold on,
had it in that format. Yeah?
I don't think I should even be on tonight.
It's up to you.
If you don't need to be, it's fine.
I don't have a lot to contribute, and I still feel like I got hit by a bus.
Elena, go take care of yourself, okay, girl?
Yeah, rest if you need to, yeah,
Yeah, because I see that's like the common side effects of the one-shot vaccine.
Yep.
Headache, fatigue, muscle ache, nausea, fun time.
All in
That-
exchange for having a little more safety and peace of
Yeah.
mind.
Elena, go take care of yourself, okay, girl?
Okay, I just wanted to at least check in and show y'all that I was not dead, but I kind of.
It is good to know that you are indeed
So
alive.
good, girl.
But
So
yeah,
good.
I'm probably just gonna go back to bed.
Manic
Yeah,
is
do what you
saying,
gotta
go
do.
lay down, feel better.
We'll be doing this again soon anyhow, so we can,
Okay.
talk more at that time.
All right. Adios, girl.
Bye. Sorry.
Don't be. It's okay.
Okay.
uh,
Leave.
All right. And now let's see us snap back to being in weird positions on the stream for a second.
nope.
Oh, you got it
Bam.
right away. Ooh,
Yeah. Bless
Nice.
multiple
Nice catch.
scenes. Oh, I
that's
love
real
it.
good.
Oh, I love it.
All right. So back to that drifter stuff again. Uh, so you had this event where the Tyrannos Polymos showed up at that time, and it's like, why does it have the same name format as the one in charge of the drifters? And remember, this one also only showed up after Jamil was killed, after all the Amar stuff stopped, and now it's just it's watching over these operations going on to mess with society of conscious thought stuff. At the time it's like, oh, what if it means something? It's interesting that it has the same format as the Strategos. But nothing really came of it at the time because it was just an event, and we were like, all right, it's done, whatever. It seems neat, but it seems like it might be forgotten. And it was, by the way, during that time, it flew a NPC drifter battleship called a Strike Command Battleship. So it's basically the one coordinating things on that front, on the battlefield, getting stuff done. And Polymos itself basically more or less translates to warlord. So that's a good thing there to go with. Strategos General.
You know what?
Polymos
I'm
warlord.
gonna grab a tinfoil hat and then say that's the other. Somehow
no,
the other came back, and then that's why it all stopped. And then the other's like, all right, what else do I fucking?
So I can actually go a bit further with this too. So why I'm talking about all this now again is because when Poshfen was thrown together last year, you have new NPCs that started showing up there, and the drifter ones are very interesting. So you have so you have a number of new drifters basically. And there's 3 new battleship ones, 3 new cruiser ones, and the ones that are flying those are all very interesting. The strongest version of the cruiser and the battleship, each respectively, are the Tyrannos Navarcos, again, the one with the same name format as the CEO one and the Polymos. It flies the Tyrannos Navarcos cruiser. And then the really interesting one came when we saw Tyrannos Polymos show back up again, being used again. Whereas with every other bit of content, they've come up with new names and new drifters every time they've done this stuff. They actually brought back this drifter, and they put it in a different ship, same hull obviously, but it's a different name. It is the Drifter Polymarcos battleship. That being, calling back to what I was saying earlier, the supreme commander position of, all this ancient Greece, Athens, military
join
setup
us
stuff.
or die. That type
basically.
of mentality.
But what you have here now is, Tyrannos Polymos, the Polymarcos, flying around in Poshfen, leading, spearheading military actions and stuff instead of, hanging back and doing all the organizing and things like that. So if I had to just say tinfoil stuff, need fun stuff, ideas, the other was originally, it's the Polymarcos, it's the Polymos. It went to Jamil, left the Strategoi in charge. They were doing their thing, keeping things in charge. It came back with them when they took, Jamil. Well, they killed Jamil, took the other back. Also, maybe took Jamil back with it. Who knows? And then it wasn't able to take its place back, being in charge of everything. Maybe because Jamil was in its head and messing things up. Again, this is my tinfoil stuff, but it would fit well for why it didn't, go back to that role. And now it's doing, it's more in the field doing stuff directly, where you have the Strategos taking charge and, actually making all the top decisions, what's necessary. Just like in real life, where the Strategos became the ones making all the decisions, unless the situation comes where they needed the decision of the Polymos here to break a stalemate for something. So I that's my theory / presumption. Maybe a little arrogant to say, I know this for sure. It's definitely not known, but it's definitely the way that would be the coolest. Definitely the way that would work the best with what we know about them. CCP could have a lot of stuff written up in the background that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think is the case.
Yeah, it's just like they're all sitting on this type of stuff, and then it's just like we're gonna hold on to it, and then it's like, hey,
Yeah,
like for their roadmap or whatever, they're like, oh, and bam, because like you said, the trig stuff, it's come so far, and it's just like, come on,
very much has.
you can't cliffhanger us like that.
Well, that's the a symptom of a story that develops over real time in a game, you know. Anyhow, I am linking a big thing in the chat. It's a large, long link, but it is all of my thoughts on, you know, the Polemarco stuff put into a nice long forum post, and that also includes all the details about Jamil Sorum and everything there. You know, all her
Oh
connections with the
my,
other.
oh my.
Yeah, I have lots of posts like this. I'm trying to get back to writing more. It's been a bit. I haven't been playing Eve as much lately. I've been busy in real life, not been doing as much,
um,
and stagnation. You know.
and Artemis Tyrannos is the one drifter that you do normally see in wormhole space, correct?
So Arithmos Tyrannos is the one that you see in
That's
wormhole
it.
space,
Yes,
and I'll
thank
actually talk
you.
a bit about that too. So something that CCP Falcon said way back about the drifters in terms of them, you know, coming in and defending sleeper enclaves when people are running the sites and stuff in that
Mhm.
way with the Arithmos Tyrannos. He said that they basically were protecting them whether they wanted to be protected or not. So the
Mhm.
drifters, so far as anything really seems, see what's left, you know, the sleeper enclaves, the sleeper bodies inside, the people as a resource. So that's what they do. Of course, they're protecting it, and in game, it's just, you know, shooting big, cool ship. But the drifters are very methodical about their doings. They don't talk to anyone, they don't want to talk to anyone. And if you get in their way, they will come for you. So scary. And then
I
you get
will
to their relations with the Trigs, which are fun. And I can talk about that in a bit. What's
I
up?
will be right back. I have to take the cat out of the room just so
All
like
right,
continue talking.
momentary
I don't want to
pause.
be like, hey, so continue talking. I'm
Yeah,
talking.
jump it up and dash. All right, hi. I guess I'm hosting a stream for a moment. Let's see what happens. It's nice to just hang out with some people and talk about things like this, though. Haven't gotten the chance to do this as much lately. Hope you guys are enjoying at least listening to me ramble on about stuff. And I'm going to be trying to do stuff like this more often. I might try to do a more organized thing at some point. Who knows? But yeah, Eve is a good thing to me. Important, rather. And I am just going to monologue here, yes. I mean, I discovered it in what, 2012? Started there, found a cool spaceship game, read all the different cool stories that had been written and put out for it. And, you know, I decided I loved it and I fell in love with it. The Jove stuff caught me immediately. I have always loved Alien, and I had actually seen Prometheus only a few months prior to discovering Eve Online. And, well, I love basically the character designs and the mood of that movie. Even if it's objectively not a good movie, but it is my favorite movie. And that mood was carried very well by all the stuff with the sleepers, all the stuff with the Jove, you know, this big foreboding ancient cosmic wonder. And it's like, what's the answers to these questions? That's what I like. And that's what drew me in. Um, from there, I just got stuck forever. Now here I am still. And now to see what people are saying. Yeah. From Manic Velocity, you think he'll make it to Vegas this year? I am really not sure. I want to see people. I desperately do. It's killing me that I am not able to go places or do things or see people. Like I have friends who live, you know, close by to me who I haven't seen since last March because of COVID and everything. We should go to karaoke all the time. You know, I love doing that for all the Eve stuff too, mind you. But I don't know about Vegas. I don't know if I feel that things will be safe, that I will be safe, then maybe I'll go. But until I'm very sure about stuff, I'm going to be real careful because I have a lot of friends and a lot of people people I live with, people I know, people I'm close with, who would not do well to get sick. So I'm trying to be very careful about everything. And having to quarantine for 2 weeks, going there and then 2 weeks coming back, maybe not the most fun thing. But I would love to see people, so we'll see what happens. And then asking why I wanted the corpse of Jamil Sorum. So basically, in character, as if, you know, if you're role playing any person who lives in New Eden, who lives in the game we play in, nobody knows that the other existed. Not one player. No one knows what they are. No one has any context for that. No one knows that an other was in the head of Jamil Sorum. People say like, oh, you know, people can throw conspiracy theories and stuff around, but there's no evidence for it. If that body had materialized and I was trying to get it, I I had some leads on it, but it seems like things have really just dissipated once again. It is once again out of my grasp.
Wait, at one point, wait.
What? Oh, I don't hear you now. You're
God
muted.
damn it. Okay.
There we go. I got you.
Okay. So at one point, you actually did have Jamil's
I never
corpse?
had it.
Okay.
No, I didn't have it.
Okay.
I had some leads on who might, and that didn't lead to.
And then, so once again, whenever she died in game, like at that moment, her corpse just vanished, right?
Well, someone picked it up. Someone scooped it from space. It was an item. Same as if you break and blow up anyone else's pod, there was a corpse item.
It's a shame. It would be a shame if it was biomassed.
Well, the character doesn't exist in game anymore. So the character Jamil Sorum was that CCP got rid of the character.
Mhm.
What I actually went and did later on was make a character with the same name so no one else could use it. And I technically have an item with the proper name where no one but CCP would be able to tell that this wasn't the real corpse. But, I'm not going to do that because that'd be really crappy, and I'm not going to mess with
So
things
wait,
like
that character is just station locked, basically.
Yeah, well, sometimes I undock them and sit them outside of a MAR. But, yeah.
Guys, you know what
Funny
to
stuff.
do. You know what to do.
Yeah. And Vlad, basically, there's no evidence either way that it was or wasn't removed by CCP. I don't see why they would have, basically, because leaving it in there, and again, the reason why I still very badly want to find it, maybe talk to the person who has it, is that if you could, do stuff, role play stuff, do like an autopsy, like people have done for the Drifters, good friends of mine, you'd be able to say, wow, the Empress had all this really weird stuff in her head. What's that? Is that a sleeper implant? Why is that in there?
Yeah.
And then you can basically go from that and say, oh, she's connected to the Drifters, like directly. And that would just be able to open up so many things for, not only, the story advancing on its own, but people being able to talk about things. Because one of the big problems with Eve's lore, I think, especially like the Templar 1 kind of stuff, Tony Gonzalez stuff, is that so much of this really interesting, deep, mysterious information there's no parity with it in game. No characters know about this stuff. And that's sad for the roleplay stuff because you can't write about it or talk about it because no one knows about it.
Wait,
So
not a lot of the role players
rectify that would
know
be very
about
good
that
for
type
me.
of stuff?
What do you say?
Not a lot of the role players know about that stuff?
No, so people know about it. We as
Okay.
people know about it, but none of your characters ever could possibly know that. So you can't talk about it as your character because they can't know that.
True.
Yeah. It's too bad.
So Adam Verkellen, I don't know if I pronounced that right, I'm sorry. I presume CCP knows if it's in the database, they're just not telling.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't. I mean, given the way CCP handles players handling things, I'm fine with that. And that's just kind of how EVE goes. I mean, I've mentioned before, so when Wormhole Space first opened in lore, there's news articles from that day. A character who the guy in charge of the Erectulon stuff, Hylan Tukos, if you remember that name, a person he was close with, was the first one to head into Wormhole Space. And she went in there and stuff happened. And she disappeared. She never came back out.
She did.
So what happened later on, though, was someone just flying through in the game
Yes.
found a number of exploration ships just sitting there, her and the other people she had gone in with. They actually belonged to these characters. One of them belonged to the character Leon de Barreau. And he said, oh, this is interesting. But then he realized he was in like a hostile system. And he was like, oh, I'll blow these up so the other guys can't take him. He blew them up. And inside the cargo hold of Leon de Barreau's ship was a piece of trinary data, which would have been able to be played with as something to maybe give information about what happened to her and some information about the sleepers and maybe some other things. Instead, lost to oblivion.
I know you're not part of CCP, but do you think if that survived, do you think CCP would have incorporated that into the game somehow of like, okay, almost like, okay, the trigs are happening, but then if that item survived and then, it went, do you think that would have changed some of the...
I think it would have, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because the way things work, if there are some things that players didn't get to learn because something was denied, that's just how it goes. It's an emergent story. Players decide the course of many things. And, it is what it is. If a player has the corpse of Jamil Sorum, doesn't ever want to give it up or let anyone know that they have it. If someone has it,
So
Yep.
Adam is saying again, if of course if CCP said yes, the corpse is still lying around somewhere, it would.
Of course,
Or
yeah.
so here's the thing: everyone that has seat access, like your ESI access, people would be. I have ESI
Combing through
access.
things.
I would
Yes.
be combing through my corporation and everything to find this.
That said, if the
Like
person who has it has yet to say anything about it after all this time, or whoever it's been traded to, or whatever, I doubt it's on any characters that would be
exactly.
revealing that. At the same
Well,
time, also though, when you look at corpses and assets, does it actually show a name if you're
let
looking at it
let
through
me
ESI
see.
stuff?
I'm gonna look right now.
Yeah.
So all right, okay, characters. I'm gonna load up. Not all. I'll load up me. Um, here we go. Assets. So I want to look under assets, and I want to get corpses. Okay, so I'm looking at the corpse, and then it's telling me the location and seat. That's it, and then it just says who owns it, but it doesn't say anything in there of what's going on. Cal, listen, it's for one corpse. Jamal Serum's corpse. That's it.
If it exists, it exists. I desperately hope at some point in history, in
Yeah.
the coming future, it is shown, and then we can have some really fun roleplay stuff where we say, "Oh, hey, look what we found here."
Glad you
Someday,
can't
maybe.
see my seat,
It's been
of
over
course.
5 years. I'm still not giving up. So
Oh, I don't blame you. So
yeah.
now I'm just wondering if let's go in my wait, no, I want contracts. So I want to see how far seat will go with
How far what will go?
seat will go with your contract history.
Yeah.
All right, okay, let's see this.
Is it a number of contracts over time, or is it a
Oh,
time thing?
so far I could only see 10 months ago. So I think when API ended and then when ESI took over.
That might be it.
Yeah. So gosh darn. Well, now we figured out that mystery, guys.
Mysteries of the universe, or at least of EVE Online.
Is
So,
there
is there any sign that this is still live lore, or has it just faded away? You can literally never say. Sometimes there are many long months in between things actually happening in lore things. Sometimes we've gone months without news articles.
I want to say it's
We just had
both.
a news article come out a couple of days ago, breaking off what has been, I think it was like the second or third longest break in lore stuff that we've had ever in Eve. CCP obviously has a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I wonder what they're up to. No one can say no one can know. But stuff's not dead. The Trigs, there was a lot of stuff built into them, a lot of stuff that still has yet to be shown off. And every bit of the history of the Drifters and the Triglavians and all the stuff that goes into them, it all connects back to some just very, very, a lot of foundational stuff for the game's lore. It's a lot of stuff that if they ever talk about it, all this is involved. So if they ever do more with it, it's going to talk about stuff more. And one of the biggest things for me is the Tyrannos Polymos stuff, all of that. It shows, even with this Triglavian story being advanced, we have this very subtle but very significant growth of the Drifter story at the same time. And that's cool to me. The one thing I am keeping a very close eye on, though, is the anchorages in Poshven. There's one in each of the Triglavian home systems. And these things are, absolutely massive. They look to be a combination of stations and massive, massive gates. They anchor, the domain of Poshven to the domain of Bujan, which is, where the Trigs live deep in the abyss somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us think that someday those things will allow you to go to the place where the Triglavians call home.
So the
And on
dead
those things,
space.
actually, if you look up any pictures of them, the anchorages, let's see, I don't know if I could, no, I probably can't share my screen or anything.
You may be able to. No, I am not the host. I'm sorry.
That
If
is
you
A-okay. Look up some pictures of them, though, if you can.
pictures of what again? Sorry.
The Triglavian Virage anchorages. Let me see. I'll type it in the chat.
Uh,
That's how you spell it. There's a lot, the Triglavian stuff So we've talked a lot about the drifters. I can talk about the trigs now, I guess, and a little about there's a lot of stuff I enjoy about them. There's so much we don't know that we should know about them, but what we do know, it's just all very enticing. They're a very well constructed faction with a lot of stuff that builds into them, and a lot of just well put together stuff. Like in the very beginning, all we know is okay, the number 3 is very, very common in everything that we see them do. Actually, let me check. Hold on, I got to do one thing here real quick. Yeah. True. All right. Sorry, I had to type something into something real quick.
Sorry,
right back to speaking in a moment.
Stuff too.
All right, Triglavians. Does anyone have anything they would like to ask or have me, talk about for them? If anyone wants to have a little prompt, I can just use it as a springboard and talk about stuff for the rest of the night if I want to. Any ideas?
Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing.
Oh, you're trying to do the thing. All right. We'll give it a second. All right. Oh, hey, my dog. Hey, Gambit. Come here. Oh, yeah. Come on up here. Oh, you can't see him. He's sitting in front of me under my desk now. It's right down here.
Hello, baby boy. Hi.
Oh, okay. You're going to curl up and go on the floor right in front of my chair. Hi, I'm going to have to sit like this now. See if you can see him, actually. He's right down there. Sweet little guy.
Here we go. All right, there. There we go. Right up on stream.
Great, there you go. Yeah, those things. Very neat, very large structures. The Triglavians showed up. The earliest evidence of them showing up, they're very interesting because, it seems like they came out of nowhere, but then you start looking into things, and then there's all these little details that are very related to them, going back further than we knew about them even. The first thing I'd say was a direct sign of them and perhaps intended to be something related to Triglavian stuff was back in, I think it was 2017, I think. You had the Warzone Extraction event in EVE, which was a tie-in with EVE Valkyrie. Yeah, my dog is just leaning around my desk.
Rest in peace. Not
gonna be able to sit in at all.
EVE Valkyrie.
He's doing what he's doing. So during those events, you had drifters smashing open yet more sleeper enclaves that were in K-space, just like you had before with the sleeper caches and everything. And what they were trying to take from these were little samples of Triglavian, well, not Triglavian said outright, but trinary relics, they were called. And the sleepers that defended these enclaves were trying to keep the drifters from taking them. So they weren't on the same side, or at least they weren't in control of those sleepers or of these enclaves in general, because they had to pop them open. This trinary relic stuff that uses the same icon as all of the different Triglavian data and everything, all the different little records, stuff like that. You had this stuff happen, trinary stuff show up. Then you had at one point, this other live event where some people showed up and tried to shoot some other event actors. It was all part of the story thing. One of them had trinary data in there, or trinary relics, rather. Sorry, big difference, I guess. Not really, though. In their cargo hold. And things started saying, all right, there's some funky stuff happening here with these relics. Like, where do they come? What are they? Where are they coming from? Why do the drifters want them? Then eventually you get what starts happening with you start having big giant fleets of drifters just pop into existence, out of seemingly nowhere near different gates and stuff. And all of these ones are carrying, bunches of these trinary data vaults, they're called. And each of these, so the items in game, actually, if you look them up, let me see if you can actually link those.
Trinary
data vaults. You cannot search them. All right, I'll share a link to some of them. I'll find them as well. But basically what these things were, CCP put in items. The description for them had a URL on one of their servers. And each time they had new big fleets of drifters carrying these things show up, they would release a different one of the vaults with a different URL. And they would make that URL active on their website. And each of these would have a different little video clip with just strange, cryptic, puzzly stuff. And we started figuring out, all right, this looks like nonsense. But then one of us figured out, I think it was Tree Seo, good buddy. He figured out that they were URLs, and we figured out like a quarter of the alphabet just from that because we, just puzzled it out. After we got that done, we started figuring out bits of the language. Each time we got one of these so each video was like black with
Mhm.
text scrolling across it in Triglavian language. And if you figured out what the URL was, sorry, if you figured out what the text said, it would be a second URL, which you would put into the search bar or whatever, put it up there, and it would link you to a tiny clip of a video. It's like a cut up video.
Oh
And
my
over time, we
god, they
collected all the
are in
pieces to
game.
them. Huh?
They are in game.
Yes, they are. That's good.
So Triglavian trinary data stream.
No, so the data streams are not the data vaults. That's something else.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So the data streams are things you get from the Abyss and from other things. They just have lore information in the description. Very important stuff, but it doesn't link you to anything out of game. So yeah, basically
Okay.
though, these boxes, these trinary data vaults, had one video with a bunch of little weird text. Figured out what that said. Got a second video, which was a piece of yet another larger video. So you had a number, you had like 2 or 3 different things that they put out through that, and all of us with the ARC stuff, we ended up putting them all together to see what the actual videos are, and we get our first looks at the Abyss and the Trigs in there fighting the Drifters. These were just like observation footage and stuff, and that's the first evidence of, all right, the Drifters are down here doing something with these mysterious new ships, this faction we've never heard of. And then you have that Vedmak show up that Concord captured, which they had sitting outside of the station in Ulai. They had FanFest happen where they announced the Triglavians. They had the scope in game in news,
Yep.
reveal that they existed and tell you all about the Abyss, what they were, what they do,
And then now
big
they've
content
come
drop,
here.
all that. And that's just where they came in. And after that, you started being able to get these little trinary data streams, the ones you were looking at, which told bits and pieces. They're like little logs written by the Triglavians about what they've encountered. So you have ones about the Drifters, you have ones about rogue drones, ones about Sancha's nation, and ones about Capsuleers. You also have other ones that kind of weren't written, I guess, but there's placeholders for other things. It just describes their interactions with them and what they think of each of them. And the Drifter ones are fun for them too. We had the early ones. They're like, all right, they encounter a Drifter ship for the first time, and they're like, oh, they call it the Ancient Enemy Azdaha. So Ancient Enemy is what they use for the Drifters. That's what they call. That's what they talk to them. That's what they call them. They recognize these ships, or at least the people piloting them, or at least what they call themselves as their ancient enemy. They know what this is. They know it's awful, and all of the Triglavians basically come together, all 3 of the different clades, which typically do actually have a lot of conflict in fighting. Maybe not outright fighting, but they, it's 3 different giant tribes, I guess, if you want to call it that, made of different smaller tribes within them. That's what the Triglavian civilization is built as, kind of. But when the Drifters show up, they're like, all right, all of us have to do everything we can to work together to solve this problem right now. Because that's how serious it was to them. Their whole civilization. It's like they found us. They got to us in the Abyss. We have to fight them back. We have to do things now. And it's just it's a very major thing. Later on, they also talk more about the Drifters and say, all right, we thought these guys were the tyrants because they use the name. They're the Vigilant Tyrannos. They are the tyrants. They call themselves the tyrants. Second Empire stuff, Second Jove Empire. But the Trigs go on to say, these people display, major ideological differences from the tyrants that we knew. There's something really different about them. They are something else. And they have this little broken bit of text that, almost seems to suggest, yeah, we think they are, the others and stuff like that. It's what it seems to describe. But yeah, no, regardless of what it is, the Drifters took up the mantle of the tyrants and are chasing the Trigs and are trying to conquer them, that sort of thing. They chased into their home, broke in there finally, and are just doing stuff there. And the Trigs, you have the Drifters attacking them. You have Capsuleers start coming in, and they're seeing what we are. They're interested in us. What do they think of us? They're saying, oh, maybe all these Capsuleers, they're all so independent. They all work for different things. They all have so many different allegiance profiles and stuff like that. And they're like, maybe we can make use of this, like they did with the rogue drones that were coming into their place as well. So first they're like, all right, these are vermin. They're bad. We got to blow them all up. That's what Svarog Clade says, which is one of the Triglavian 3 clades. And then Velis Clade is like, wait, actually, we can do stuff with this. And, they can use the rogue drones, influence them, control them, have them work together to further their goals. And that's what they do with rogue drones. That's why you see in the Abyss, rogue drones, if you fight rogue drones, if you're running Abyss sites, show info on them. they all have one of the different Triglavian clades as their corporation. And then a big major thing about all this with the rogue drones specifically. I am sort of rambling now, so let me know if I start just like teetering off track and losing people.
Well,
Happens.
we'll actually start wrapping up in a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I'll talk a bit more about the rogue drones, and then we can go off of more stuff another time, and I can write more of a plan. How's that?
Sure.
So, the rogue drones in relation to the Triglavians. The Trigs have, people, they're Trigs, but there are actually 3 different forms of life that comprise their population. So you have ones they call Narodnia, which the word basically means folk. It's people. That's human beings, basically. That is human bodies, human people.
Yep.
You have the Kostchoi, which is based on Kostche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the word comes directly from that, which is, old Slavic myth. A guy who had his soul separate from his body, put away somewhere else so he's immortal. We don't know enough about them in game to be able to say much, but I have a lot of theories about that too, and I will actually probably talk about that in the next time I'm on. The last one is the Navka, which are basically, in the word basically, you have Mavka and Nav. So Mavka are like, just like drowned dead, just people who died, spirits of the dead. Nav are, spirits of the dead, that sort of thing. Where these are presumed and very much, evidenced to be infomorphs that don't have a body anymore, or are some sort of record of an infomorph, a once living person.
Mm-hmm.
What these things can do, these Navka, they can inhabit rogue drones, basically. So those Navka overminds you see in, the Abyss, those are Trigs. They're literally Trigs. And then you have, the any Trig you see, like Zoria Triglav, why they speak in 3 voices, is because they call that a Trika. It is 3 different minds in one body. One Narodnia, one Kostchoi, and one Navka. And they all just, it's like a majority rules kind of 3 in 1 person. That's just kind of how it works. And it's
That's
neat.
gotta be
and I would
crazy.
very much love for CCP to talk more about who they are, how that works for them, what like civilization is like, what like society is like for them.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff they could play with.
But I feel like that's all. Isn't that what they're trying to do with Pochavin and everything? Is that they came to New Eden?
They are trying.
Because
I very much hope that they have something larger in the works, and that's why things have kind of gone quiet for the past number of months. One last thing before we're done, I think, though. I talked about way earlier this Jove who told Jamil Sorum that the other was trying to do bad stuff with clone soldiers.
Yes.
This Jove was dead, but what he was in Templar 1, the guy named Grius, was a leftover sort of echo and infomorph of a once living Jove put into a machine. And you have some funny stuff here where this Jove originally was very much opposing the guys that we knew originally were the admins of the Sleeper VR. And we saw him alive in one of Tony G's other works, Theodicy, which is actually available online to read. And it's one of the short stories free of online. And that's the story of everything that happened leading up to and involving the Battle of Atioth. In that, he was very against this group. But when he shows up in Templar 1 and he's dead and he's this digital being, which I would
almost
absolutely
like a
compare to
hologram?
the Navka, he's on their side now. He thought he has totally changed sides. And there's a lot of stuff, I think next time I come on, I'll talk about why I think the Triglavians are related to, or at least include, the group that was originally the admins of the Sleeper VR. So that's, I think, where I'll leave it off today. There's a lot of stuff I can talk about there. Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
just very intimately.
It's a lot.
linked.
It's a lot, but I'm loving every. I'm loving every
Thank you.
second of this.
Thank you very much. I love talking about this stuff.
It's great. It's wonderful. So normally we have like a dance party and everything, but since we want this to go up on like Spotify and everything, we can't.
Yeah, I remember what happened last time, right?
Here, have my girlfriend in the back with the killer dance moves with no music.
Let me see if I can get my dog.
Red Lion, guys, here we're gonna go raid. Puppy!
He doesn't like this.
Baby!
He's not happy. Oh. You see that?
He's like, fuck this shit.